The stars burned cold and distant in the observation deck of the Valdrian Imperial Palace. Empress Valara stood before the massive window, watching her empire stretch across the darkness. 3,000 years of conquest had given her people control over 847 star systems. No force in the galaxy could challenge the Valdrian might. Behind her, High Admiral Krenth entered the chamber. His boots clicked against the polished floor as he approached. He carried a data tablet that glowed with fresh intelligence reports. "Your Majesty," Krenth said, bowing low. "Our scouts have found something remarkable." Valara turned slowly, her eyes, cold as the void itself, fixed on her admiral. "Speak. We've discovered a system marked in the ancient archives as forbidden. The coordinates were hidden, but our new scanning technology found it. The system is called Sol. The third planet is named Earth." The Empress raised one elegant eyebrow. "And why should this interest me?" Krenth's face showed barely contained excitement. "The planet is inhabited, Your Majesty, by humans. They have space stations and satellites, but their technology appears primitive. They still use chemical rockets for most of their space travel." "Humans." Valara repeated the word, as if tasting something strange. "I have heard this name before. In children's stories, perhaps. The ancient records call it the quarantine zone," Krenth continued. "But those records are over 800 years old. The warnings seem like superstition now. The scouts saw no evidence of advanced weapons, no fleet that could threaten us. They appear isolated and weak." Valara walked to her throne and sat down. Her fingers drummed on the armrest. "How many ships do they have?" "Perhaps 200 or 300, Your Majesty." "All confined to their home system. They've never attempted to expand beyond their single star." "Curious," the Empress mused. "Why would we quarantine such a primitive species?" Krenth shook his head. "The old records are unclear. The files are corrupted or deliberately encrypted. What remains speaks of danger, but offers no specifics. I believe our ancestors were simply overcautious. Perhaps these humans had a plague, or perhaps they were once aggressive, but have since declined. And their resources? Abundant, Your Majesty. The system has multiple planets rich in minerals, gas giants with rare elements, and Earth itself has water, atmosphere, and diverse biosphere. It would be a valuable addition to the Empire." Valara smiled. It was not a warm expression. "Prepare an invasion fleet. 2,000 warships should be sufficient for such a primitive world." "At once, Your Majesty." Krenth bowed again and turned to leave. "Admiral," Valara called out. He stopped. "Make sure the humans understand their place in my empire. They may surrender peacefully, or they may burn. The choice is theirs." Far across the galaxy, in the Sol system, Admiral Taeyang sat in his office aboard the ESS Indomitable. The flagship of Earth's deep space defense fleet floated in orbit above Mars. Taeyang was an old man now, his hair gray and his face lined with decades of service. He had spent 30 years preparing for a war he hoped would never come. The door chimed. "Enter," he said. Captain Minji stepped inside. She was young, brilliant, and one of the best tactical officers Earth had ever produced. She carried herself with quiet confidence. "Admiral, we've detected unusual readings at the edge of the system. Long-range sensors picked up multiple quantum signatures, jumping in and out of normal space." Taeyang felt his stomach tighten. "How many?" "At least 50 separate contacts, sir. They're observing us, watching our stations, our ships, our planet." The Admiral stood and walked to the window. Earth hung below, blue and beautiful. 300 years had passed since the last war. 300 years of peace, of building, of preparing. The United Defense Council had maintained the fleet, but many had questioned why. Now, perhaps, they would have their answer. "Have we been detected?" he asked. "Unknown, sir. Our stealth technology is significantly advanced. But we must assume they know we're watching them watch us. Taeyang nodded slowly. What does intelligence say about them? Minji pulled up a holographic display. They match descriptions from the old archives. Valdrian Empire. They control a large portion of the galaxy. Highly militaristic. Aggressive expansion policy. And they've found us after all this time. It appears so, sir. The Admiral was quiet for a long moment. Then he pressed a button on his desk. Get me the United Defense Council. Priority Alpha. And wake up the Ghost Squadron. Tell Commander Daehyun. We may need his team. Sir, are we going to war? Minji asked softly. I don't know, Captain. But if those scouts are what I think they are, then someone out there is about to make a very terrible mistake. On the other side of the system, Lieutenant Hyun sat in his fighter cockpit, running through pre-flight checks. He was young, eager, and had never seen real combat. His entire life, the fleet had been a ceremonial force, a reminder of Earth's violent past. Now, kept as tradition, but today felt different. The entire squadron had been activated. Every pilot, every ship, every weapon system brought online. Something was happening. All pilots, this is Commander Daehyun. A voice crackled over the comm system. Listen carefully. We have unknown contacts at the system's edge. This is not a drill. I repeat, this is not a drill. Prepare for possible hostile action. Hyun's hands trembled slightly on the controls. This was real. After 3 centuries of peace, something had found them. Back in the Imperial Palace, Empress Valara watched as her fleet assembled. 2,000 warships, each carrying enough firepower to destroy a city. The pride of the Valdrian Empire, gathering for conquest. How long until they reach Earth? She asked. 3 weeks at standard speed, Your Majesty. An aide replied. Excellent. I want to see their faces when they realize their world belongs to me now. But in the depths of the Imperial archives, hidden in forgotten databases, old warnings remained unread. Files that spoke of humanity's true nature. Records that explained why Earth had been left alone for so long. Data that detailed what happened the last time someone tried to conquer the humans. The warnings were clear, written by the survivors of an ancient war. Never wake the sleeping giant. Never challenge the guardians of soul. Never forget what the humans can do when threatened. But those warnings stayed buried in digital dust. And the Valdrian fleet continued its journey toward Earth, confident in their strength, certain of their victory. Admiral Taeyang stood on the bridge of the Indomitable, watching the stars. Captain Minji stood beside him. The Council has given authorization, she said quietly. Full defensive measures. All protocols unlocked. Taeyang nodded. Then we do what we've trained for. We protect our home. And if they attack? The old Admiral's eyes hardened. Then we remind the galaxy why they left us alone in the first place. The stage was set. The Valdrian Empire, powerful and proud, racing toward what they believed would be an easy conquest. And Earth, quiet and patient, preparing to show the galaxy a truth it had forgotten. Some legends die because they are false. But some legends die because the truth is too terrible to remember. 3 weeks had passed like a held breath. The Valdrian fleet emerged from hyperspace at the edge of the Sol system in a display meant to inspire terror. 2,000 warships materialized in perfect formation, their hulls gleaming with weapon ports and shield generators. High Admiral Krenth stood on the bridge of his flagship, the Eternal Conquest. Around him, officers worked at their stations, coordinating the massive fleet. He felt satisfaction wash over him. This would be glorious. This would be the moment songs were written about. Open a channel to the planet called Earth, he commanded. Let them hear the voice of their new master. The communication officer nodded. Channel open, Admiral. Krenth straightened his uniform and spoke with authority. Primitive humans of Earth. I am High Admiral Krenth of the Valdrian Empire. Your system now belongs to Empress Valara. Krenth straightened. I am Pretem. You will lower any defensive systems. You will surrender all military assets. You will prepare to receive occupation forces. Compliance will be rewarded. Resistance will be met with total destruction. You have 1 hour to respond. The message broadcast across all frequencies. On Earth, billions of people watched and listened. Some felt fear. Others felt anger. But most felt something the Valdrians would not expect. Determination. Aboard the Indomitable, Admiral Taeyang sat in his command chair. Captain Minji stood at the tactical station, her fingers dancing across holographic controls. Around them, the bridge crew worked with calm efficiency. Admiral, the Valdrian message has been received, the communications officer reported. Response? Captain Minji looked at him. The old admiral smiled, but there was no humor in it. One word. Tell them no. The communications officer blinked in surprise, then nodded. Sending now. Sir. In the Valdrian flagship, Krenth received the response. He read it once. Twice. Then his face turned purple with rage. No? He slammed his fist on the command console. All ships, battle formation, weapons free. We will teach these primitives the price of defiance. The massive fleet began to move forward, accelerating toward Earth. Their sensors showed them what they expected. A small defensive fleet of perhaps 200 human ships, scattered across the inner system. They're pathetic, Krenth's tactical officer reported. Their vessels are small. Outdated designs. This will be over in minutes. But Lieutenant Hyun, sitting in his fighter somewhere near Mars, knew different. His hands were steady now on the controls. His fear had burned away, replaced by focus. Around him, his squadron mates waited in their ships, invisible to Valdrian sensors. Ghost Squadron, this is Dae Hyun. Their commander's voice came through. Remember your training. Fast, precise, lethal. Make every shot count. Copy that, Hyun replied, along with dozens of other pilots. The Valdrian fleet entered weapons range. Their forward ships opened fire, launching missiles and energy beams toward the Earth vessels. The attack was devastating, designed to destroy the human fleet in the opening salvo. Then something impossible happened. The Earth ships simply disappeared. One moment they were there, solid targets on every scanner. The next moment, they were gone. Not destroyed, not damaged, just gone. What? Krenth began, but he never finished the sentence. The Earth ships reappeared. Not where they had been, but scattered throughout the Valdrian formation. Above them, below them, between them, and they were firing. Dr. Jiwon watched from a monitoring station on Earth's moon. She had spent 15 years developing the quantum displacement drive. Now she saw her creation in action, and it was beautiful. They can't track us, Captain Minji said calmly aboard the Indomitable. Their sensors aren't designed for quantum signatures. To them, we're ghosts. The Earth ships moved through the Valdrian fleet like sharks through a school of fish. They would appear, fire with devastating accuracy, then disappear before the enemy could respond. Valdrian ships exploded in brilliant flashes. Others spiraled out of control, their systems damaged beyond repair. Krenth screamed orders, but his fleet couldn't respond to an enemy they couldn't see. All ships, random dispersal pattern, activate point defense systems, but it was too late. The Ghost Squadron struck next. Hyun and his fellow pilots appeared directly above the Valdrian flagship. Their fighters were small, fast, and equipped with weapons that shouldn't have existed on such small craft. Targeting the command ship, Hyun reported. Weapons locked. Fire, Commander Daehan ordered. The fighters released their payload. Not conventional missiles, but quantum torpedoes that phased through the flagship's shields and detonated inside the ship itself. The Eternal Conquest shuddered as internal explosions ripped through multiple decks. They're inside our shields, a Valdrian officer shouted in panic. How are they inside our shields? 1. A. General Solman activated Earth's planetary defense systems. Massive satellites that had orbited silently for 300 years suddenly came online. Their weapon ports opened, revealing technology that made the Valdrian fleet look like antiques. The battle raged for exactly 1 hour. When it ended, 300 Valdrian ships were destroyed. Another 200 were crippled and drifting. The remaining 1,500 ships retreated beyond Mars' orbit. Their formation broken. Their confidence shattered. Earth's casualties: 0 ships destroyed. 3 vessels reported minor damage to external plating. No crew injuries. Aboard what remained of his flagship, Krenth sat in his damaged command chair, staring at the reports with disbelief. This was impossible. They were primitives. They were supposed to be weak. The old records were wrong. They had to be wrong. "Hi, Admiral. Incoming message from the human flagship," his communications officer said quietly. "Put it through," Krenth whispered. Admiral Taeyong's face appeared on the screen. He looked tired, but his eyes were hard as steel. "Admiral Krenth, you came to my home system. You threatened my people. You attacked my fleet. I am giving you one chance. Take your remaining ships and leave. Never return. If you do, I promise you will not leave alive." Krenth found his voice. You were supposed to be primitive. The scans showed. We showed you what we wanted you to see," Taeyang interrupted. "Your scouts saw our civilian infrastructure. Commercial stations, transport vessels. You never saw our military capabilities because we didn't want you to. Now you know better. The Empress will send more ships," Krenth said, trying to sound threatening. 10,000 ships. 20,000. You cannot stand against the entire empire. 10,000 ships. 10,000 ships. 10,000 ships. Taeyang leaned forward. "Tell your Empress something for me. Tell her that Earth has been waiting for 300 years. We've been building, advancing, preparing. We left the galaxy alone because we wanted peace. But if the galaxy comes looking for war, it will find more than it can handle." The screen went dark. Captain Minji stepped beside the Admiral. "Sir, Valdrian ships are withdrawing to the outer system. They're sending messages back to their empire, calling for reinforcements." "Captain, calling for reinforcements. Let them call," Taeyang said quietly. "Let them bring their reinforcements. Maybe then they'll understand." Lieutenant Hyun landed his fighter back on the carrier ship. His hands were shaking now that the battle was over. He had fired his weapons in anger for the first time. He had helped destroy enemy ships. Men and women had died today because of actions he took. Commander Daehyun met him in the hangar. The older pilot put a hand on Hyun's shoulder. "First combat is always hard," Daehyun said. "You did well." "Did I do the right thing?" Hyun asked. "They came to conquer us, to enslave us. You defended your home, your family, your species." "Yes, Lieutenant. You did the right thing." In the Valdrian Empire, Empress Valara received Krenth's report. She read it 3 times, each time with growing fury. "Impossible," she hissed. "He is making excuses for his failure." But her advisors showed her the battle recordings. She watched human ships appear and disappear like ghosts. She watched her mighty warships destroyed with ease. She watched 300 vessels burn in the void. "Send reinforcements," she commanded. 5,000 ships. War Marshal Draxus will lead them. And this time, we will crush these humans. We will make them understand that no one defies the Valdrian Empire. But deep in the archives, the old warnings remained. And they spoke of what happened to the last empire that tried to crush humanity. They spoke of ashes and ruins, of mighty civilizations brought to their knees, of weapons that could crack planets and burn stars. The warnings were still there, still unread, still ignored, and the Valdrian Empire was about to learn why legends stay forgotten. Professor Yuna had spent her entire career studying ancient history. Her office at the Earth Historical Archives was filled with data crystals, old books, and holographic projectors displaying maps of the galaxy from centuries past. She had always been curious about why Earth had been isolated for so long. Now, with war brewing in their home system, her curiosity had become urgency. "There has to be more," she muttered, scrolling through another corrupted file. Her assistant, a young researcher named Minho, brought her coffee. "Professor, you've been here for 36 hours. Maybe you should rest." "Not yet," Yuna said, her eyes fixed on the screen. "I'm close to something. I can feel it." She had been digging through the oldest Earth databases, looking for references to first contact. Everyone knew the basic story. 3,000 years ago, humanity had reached the stars. They had met other species. Something had happened. Earth had been marked as quarantine zone. Humanity had withdrawn to the Sol system, and stayed there ever since. But the details were fuzzy, lost to time, or perhaps hidden on purpose. "Wait," Yuna breathed. "Look at this." She pulled up a file fragment, partially corrupted but still readable. It was a military report from 3,000 years ago, written in ancient Korean. "It's from Admiral Choi," she said. "He commanded Earth's fleet during the Coalition Wars. I've heard that name before. But there are almost no records about what he actually did." Minho leaned over her shoulder. "What does it say?" Yuna read aloud, translating the ancient text. "We have defeated the 5th Coalition fleet at the Battle of Kepler's Gate. Total enemy losses: 14,000 ships. Our losses: 230 ships. The enemy commanders have sued for peace. I have accepted, on the condition that Earth be granted sovereign independence and marked as restricted territory. We do not wish to rule the galaxy. We only wish to be left alone." The professor sat back, stunned. 14,000 ships. They destroyed 14,000 enemy ships. And that was just one battle. "And of course, how many coalitions were there?" Minho asked. Yuna's fingers flew across the keyboard, pulling up more fragments. 5. There were 5 separate alliances that tried to conquer Earth. 5 different wars, all within a span of 100 years. She found another file. This one, a diplomatic message. "Here. This is from the peace treaty. Listen. The human species has demonstrated capability beyond our projections. Then, their technology advances at a rate we cannot match. Their strategic thinking is unlike anything in recorded history. Their determination is absolute. We, the surviving members of the 5 coalitions, agree to mark the Sol system as forbidden territory. No vessel may approach within 100 light-years. No communication may be attempted. We will remove all records of human capabilities from public archives. This information is too dangerous. Future generations must not know what humanity can do, lest they be tempted to test them again." "Maul, they buried the truth," Minho whispered. "They were so terrified of us that they erased history." Yuna pulled up a star map showing the galaxy 3,000 years ago. "Look at this. The Valdrian Empire? They didn't exist back then. They were called the Valdrian Confederacy, and they were part of the 3rd Coalition. Humans destroyed their entire fleet at the Battle of Crimson Nebula." She found records of other civilizations. The Krenthi domain, now extinct. The Solarian Unity, reduced to 3 systems. The Thros Collective, which had abandoned spaceflight entirely after their war with Earth. "We didn't just win those wars," Yuna said slowly. "We devastated them. We broke their civilization so completely that they chose to forget rather than remember." While Professor Yuna uncovered the past, Admiral Taeyang dealt with the present. War Marshal Draxus had arrived with his reinforcements. 5,000 Valdrian ships now occupied the outer system, combined with the surviving vessels from Krenth's fleet. 7,000 warships total, all preparing for a second assault. Captain Minji stood at the tactical station, studying the enemy formation. "They're being more cautious this time," tighter formation, better coordination. They've learned from their first mistake. But not enough, Taeyong said. He activated the comm system. Captain Ji-hoon? Status of the Prometheus? On the other side of the solar system, Captain Ji-hoon sat on the bridge of Earth's Dreadnought-class flagship. The ESS Prometheus was the largest warship humanity had built in 3 centuries. It had been constructed in secret, in a hidden shipyard beyond Neptune's orbit. Prometheus is ready, Admiral, Ji-hoon reported. All systems green. The Nova cannons are charged and standing by. Hold position for now, Taeyong ordered. Let's see what they do. Sub-Commander Nari, Earth's intelligence officer, had been monitoring Valdrian communications. Her team had cracked their encryption codes within hours of first contact. Now she listened to every message, every command, every private conversation between enemy officers. Admiral, they're planning to attack our moon bases, Nari reported. They think if they can establish a foothold close to Earth, they can threaten the civilian population and force our surrender. They still don't understand, Captain Minji said quietly. They think we're like them, that we'll sacrifice others to save ourselves. Taeyong shook his head. Send a message to all Earth defense stations. Activate the Jupiter network. Show them what we built while we were waiting. In orbit around Jupiter, dozens of massive structures suddenly came to life. They had been disguised as research stations, appearing harmless on Valdrian scans. Now, their true nature was revealed. Each structure was a weapon platform, equipped with defensive systems that could destroy a fleet. General Summon coordinated the activation from Earth. Jupiter Defense Grid, online. All platforms reporting ready status. We have target locks on the Valdrian fleet. War Marshal Draxus watched as his sensors detected the new threats. What are those? How many weapons do these humans have? His tactical officer's face was pale. Marshal, each of those platforms is reading power signatures equivalent to our capital ships. And there are 47 of them. Draxus felt cold sweat on his forehead. They've been preparing for this. For centuries, they've been preparing. He opened a channel to his fleet. All ships, begin the assault. Focus fire on the moon installations. We'll deal with the Jupiter platforms after we secure Earth's satellite. The Valdrian fleet moved forward. 7,000 ships, the largest invasion force in modern galactic history, advancing on Earth's moon. Lieutenant Hyun was there waiting with his squadron. He had spent the past 3 weeks training, reviewing tactics, preparing for this moment. He was no longer the nervous young pilot from the first battle. Combat had changed him. Ghost Squadron, disperse and engage at will, Commander Dae-hyun ordered. Remember, they can't hit what they can't see. The fighters activated their quantum drives and vanished. Then, they appeared among the Valdrian formation, striking like invisible knives. This time, though, the enemy was ready. They had modified their tactics, creating overlapping fields of fire that made it harder for the Earth ships to find safe attack positions. Hyun's fighter took a glancing hit from a Valdrian beam weapon. His shields absorbed most of it, but the impact sent him spinning. He compensated, steadied his craft, and returned fire. A Valdrian cruiser exploded as his torpedoes found their mark. The battle raged across the lunar surface. Valdrian ships attempted to land troops, but Earth's defense satellites destroyed them before they could touch down. The enemy responded with orbital bombardment, trying to destroy the human installations with overwhelming firepower. That's when General Summon activated the planetary shields. Energy barriers materialized around the moon, absorbing the Valdrian attacks. The enemy threw everything they had against those shields, but they held. Impossible, Draxus muttered. Shield technology this advanced shouldn't exist. How long have they been developing this? 300 years. He would have known, if he had read the archives. 300 years of peace, of research, of building and preparing, for the day someone found them again. Captain Ji-hoon received his orders. Prometheus, you are weapons free. Show them the Nova cannons. 1. The massive dreadnought moved out from behind Neptune. It was 3 kilometers long, bristling with weapons that humanity had sworn never to use unless absolutely necessary. The Nova cannons were among the most terrifying weapons ever conceived, devices that could ignite stars themselves. Target the Valdrian command carrier, Jehun ordered. Fire 1 cannon only. Let's give them a demonstration. The Prometheus fired. A beam of pure energy, focused and controlled, struck not the enemy ship, but a dead moon orbiting a gas giant at the system's edge. The moon, lifeless and barren, suddenly ignited. Nuclear fusion began in its core. In seconds, the entire celestial body was burning like a miniature star. The light was visible across the entire solar system. Aboard his flagship, War Marshal Draxus stood frozen, watching the moon burn. His hands trembled. His voice, when he finally spoke, was barely a whisper. What have they done? What kind of monsters have we awakened? The battle stopped. Both sides, human and Valdrian alike, stared at the burning moon. The message was clear. Earth had weapons that could destroy worlds. They could crack planets. They could ignite stars. And they were showing restraint by not using them on the Valdrian fleet. All ships. Draxus commanded, his voice hollow. Cease fire. Retreat to the edge of the system. Send a priority message to Empress Valara. Tell her we need to surrender, before they kill us all. But back on the Valdrian homeworld, the Empress refused to listen. Empress Valara threw the data tablet across her throne room. It shattered against a marble column, scattering pieces across the polished floor. Her advisors stood silently, afraid to speak. 7,000 ships, she hissed. I sent 7,000 ships, and they cannot even take 1 moon? What kind of cowards do I have? Commanding my fleet. Her chief advisor, an elderly Valdrian named Korthos, cleared his throat carefully. Your Majesty, the reports from War Marshal Draxus are quite clear. The humans possess technology we do not understand, weapons we cannot counter. Perhaps we should consider diplomatic options. Valara's eyes blazed with fury. Diplomatic options? You want me to negotiate with primitives? I am the Empress of the Valdrian Empire. I do not negotiate from a position of weakness. But, Your Majesty, silence. She stood from her throne, her robes swirling around her. I will not be humiliated by a single planet of isolated savages. Mobilize the home fleet. All 10,000 ships. I want them ready to depart within the week. Korthos bowed, but his expression was troubled. There may be information about these humans that could help us understand. The archives are filled with superstitious nonsense, written by cowards who feared their own shadows. Valara snapped. I care nothing for ancient fairy tales. The humans will bow to me, or they will burn. Now go. Prepare my fleet. The advisor left quickly, grateful to escape her presence. Valara stood alone in her throne room, staring at the stars through the great windows. Somewhere out there, a species of primitives had dared to resist her. The thought made her blood boil. She did not notice the old priestess entering from a side door. High Priestess Selene was ancient. Her face lined with centuries of life. She moved slowly, leaning on a staff, but her eyes were sharp and intelligent. You should listen to Korthos, Selene said quietly. The old records exist for a reason. Valara turned sharply. You overstep, priestess. This is a military matter, not a religious one. Is it? Selene moved closer. I have been reading the forbidden archives, the ones kept in the Temple of Memory, away from political interference. Do you know what I found? I care nothing for. Our ancestors fought the humans 3,000 years ago, Selene interrupted. This time, Valara fell silent. The old priestess never interrupted anyone. They were part of the Third Coalition. 14 species united against Earth. Do you know what happened? Valara said nothing, But she was listening now. The humans destroyed them, Celine continued. Not defeated. Destroyed. The coalition brought 20,000 ships to Earth. Only 3,000 returned. The survivors were so traumatized they erased the records. They made a treaty. Leave Earth alone forever. And Earth will leave us alone. It was not Earth that was quarantined, Your Majesty. It was us. We were forbidden from going there because our ancestors knew we could never win. You speak of myths, Valara said, but her voice lacked conviction. I speak of history. Celine replied. History that was buried because it was too shameful to remember. But the truth remains. The humans did not withdraw from the galaxy because they were weak. They withdrew because they were tired of war. They gave the galaxy a gift, the chance to grow without their interference, and we have repaid that gift by attacking them. Valara walked back to her throne and sat down slowly. For the first time, doubt crept into her mind. Even if what you say is true, I cannot back down now. The entire empire is watching. If I show weakness, there will be rebellions, challenges to my authority. Then you doom us all for the sake of pride, Celine said sadly. Back in the Sol system, Ambassador Suho prepared for what might be humanity's most important broadcast. He was a diplomat, not a soldier, and he had argued strongly against showing the Nova cannons. But Admiral Taeyang had overruled him. Sometimes, the Admiral had said, the best way to prevent war is to show exactly what war would cost. Now Suho stood before a camera, preparing to address the Valdrian Empire directly. His message would be broadcast on all frequencies, transmitted to every Valdrian world simultaneously. Ambassador, we're ready when you are, the technician said. Suho took a deep breath. Begin transmission. The camera activated. His image and voice would soon reach billions of Valdrians across hundreds of star systems. People of the Valdrian Empire, he began. My name is Ambassador Suho of Earth. I speak to you not as an enemy, but as someone who wishes to prevent unnecessary death. Your leaders have attacked our home. Twice now. Your fleets have come to conquer us. Twice, we have defeated them. We do not celebrate these victories. We mourn the lives lost on both sides. He paused, letting his words sink in. You have been told that we are primitive, that we are weak, that we will be easy to conquer. These are lies. Your leaders sent 7,000 ships to our system. We destroyed hundreds and sent the rest fleeing. We showed you weapons that can ignite moons. But we have not used those weapons against your people. We have shown restraint because we remember what it means to lose control. The ambassador's expression grew more serious. 3,000 years ago, your ancestors made a wise choice. They ended a war they could not win. They agreed to leave us alone. And we agreed to leave them alone. That treaty has kept the galaxy at peace. Your current leaders are about to break that peace, and the cost will be terrible. Fleet Commander Yunji listened to the broadcast from her flagship, the ESS Vengeance. She commanded Earth's offensive strike force. 50 ships designed not for defense, but for deep space operations. These were the vessels humanity would send if they ever needed to take the war to the enemy. Commander, the Valdrians are mobilizing their home fleet. Her tactical officer reported. Intelligence estimates 10,000 ships. Maybe more. Unji studied the star maps. Then Ambassador Suho's message isn't working. Should we prepare for offensive operations? The commander was quiet for a moment. She had spent her entire career training for this possibility, taking the war to the enemy's home territory, showing them that Earth's patience had limits. Not yet, she finally said. We give diplomacy a chance. But prepare the fleet. If the ambassador fails, we'll need to act quickly. Dr. Junho sat in his laboratory, making final adjustments to the Nova cannons aboard the Prometheus. He was a weapons specialist, and he had created some of humanity's most terrifying weapons, but he took no joy in it. These things should never have been built, he muttered to his assistant. But we needed them, didn't we? For deterrence. Perhaps, Junho said. But deterrence only works if the other side is rational. If they're willing to listen. What if they're not? His assistant had no answer to that. On a distant Valdrian world, a young officer named Korvax watched Ambassador Suho's broadcast. Unlike his superiors, Korvax had studied military history. He understood logistics, strategy, and the importance of intelligence. And he was terrified. The humans had defeated 7,000 ships with ease. They had weapons that could destroy celestial bodies. They had technology centuries beyond anything the Valdrian Empire possessed. And his empress wanted to send more ships into that nightmare. Korvax pulled up encrypted communication channels. There were others like him, officers who saw the truth, who understood that this war was suicide. Quietly, carefully, they began to talk, to share information, to plan. Perhaps the Empire's leadership wouldn't listen to reason, but perhaps the Empire itself could be convinced to choose survival over pride. High Priestess Selene returned to the Temple of Memory. In its deepest vaults, she found what she was looking for: the complete historical records from the Coalition Wars. Not the sanitized versions in the public archives, but the raw, unfiltered truth. She recorded everything. Every battle report, every casualty list, every desperate message from Coalition commanders begging for reinforcements that never came, every final transmission from ships destroyed by human weapons. Then she packaged it all into a single file and sent it to young Officer Korvax. She didn't know him personally, but her intelligence network had identified him as someone who might use the information wisely. The young must save us from the folly of the old, she whispered to herself. Admiral Taeyang received a message from Fleet Commander Unji. Sir, the Valdrian Home Fleet is mobilizing. Estimated arrival in Sol System, 2 weeks. The old admiral nodded slowly. Then we have 2 weeks to prepare. Captain Minji, I want you to coordinate with Dr. Junho. If we have to stop 10,000 ships, we'll need more than the Prometheus. Sir, are we really considering using the Nova cannons on their fleet? Taeyang looked at her steadily. I'm considering every option, Captain, including the ones I pray we never have to use. But make no mistake. If they bring 10,000 ships to our home, I will do whatever is necessary to protect Earth. Whatever is necessary. Across the galaxy, pieces were moving into position. An empire mobilizing for total war. A planet preparing for total defense. Dissidents plotting to save their civilization. And ancient truths finally coming to light. The question was no longer whether there would be a final battle. The question was whether anyone would survive it. The Valdrian home fleet departed with ceremony and celebration. Empress Valara watched from her palace as 10,000 warships lifted from orbit around her capital world. Citizens cheered. Military bands played triumphant music. No one spoke of the 7,000 ships that had already failed. High Admiral Krenth, demoted and disgraced, stood in the crowd with the other observers. He wanted to warn them, to tell them what he had seen. But who would listen to a failed commander? Beside him, Officer Korvax watched the ships depart with a sick feeling in his stomach. He carried High Priestess Selene's data file in his personal device. He had read it 3 times now. Each time, it filled him with more dread. They're all going to die, Korvax whispered. Krenth heard him. The old admiral turned, studying the young officer. You've seen the truth. Then, the Forbidden Archives, the Coalition Wars. Everything our ancestors tried to hide. Korvax met his eyes. We can't win this war. Can we? No, Krenth said simply. We cannot. I tried to tell the Empress, but she wouldn't listen. Pride has made her blind. Then what do we do? Krenth was quiet for a long moment. Then he said, we prepare for what comes after. When this fleet is destroyed, the Empire will fall into chaos. We must be ready to pick up the pieces and make peace before humanity decides to end us completely. In the Sol system, Admiral Taeyang stood on the observation deck of the Indomitable. Captain Minji joined him, carrying a data tablet. "The Valdrian fleet will arrive in 36 hours, she said. 10,000 confirmed ships, possibly more following behind. And our status? All defense stations active. The Jupiter network is at full power. Captain Ji-hoon has the Prometheus positioned and ready. Fleet Commander Unji's strike force is standing by for offensive operations. Dr. Junho has armed all the Nova cannons." She paused. "Sir, we've never fired multiple Nova cannons simultaneously. The power requirements are enormous." "I know," Taeyang said. "But if 10,000 ships enter our system with hostile intent, we may have no choice. There's one more thing." Minji hesitated. "We're receiving encrypted transmissions from inside the Valdrian Empire. Someone is trying to contact us. Multiple someones. Actually, officers, scientists, even some religious leaders. They're begging us to show mercy. They're saying their leadership won't listen to reason." The Admiral turned to face her. "I think we're about to destroy a civilization that's already fracturing from within. If we hit them too hard, we'll be responsible for billions of deaths, not just military casualties. And if we don't hit them hard enough, they'll keep coming back." "Yes, sir." Taeyang looked back at the stars. "Alert, Ambassador Suho. Have him prepare one final broadcast. We'll give them one last chance to turn back." Lieutenant Hyun sat in his fighter, running through pre-flight checks for what felt like the 100th time. Around him, other pilots did the same. Commander Dae-hyun moved through the hangar, speaking quietly with each pilot. When he reached Hyun, he said, "This is going to be bigger than anything we've faced before." "I know, sir." "You afraid?" Hyun thought about lying, then decided against it. "Yes, sir. But I'll do my duty." Dae-hyun smiled slightly. "Good. Being afraid keeps you sharp. Just remember your training and watch out for your wingmates. We'll get through this." As the commander moved on, Hyun looked at his fighter's weapon systems. He thought about the Valdrian pilots he'd killed in the previous battles. They were someone's sons and daughters, brothers and sisters. They had families waiting for them. And now 10,000 more ships were coming, filled with more people he would have to kill. He wondered if there was any other way, but he knew the answer. Sometimes, there was no other way. Professor Yuna worked frantically in her office, assembling every piece of historical data she could find. She had uncovered the truth about Earth's past, and now she was preparing to broadcast it to the entire galaxy. "If they know what we are," she told her assistant Minho, "if they truly understand what they're facing, maybe they'll stop. Or maybe it'll make them more determined to destroy us before we destroy them," Minho said quietly. Yuna stopped working and looked at him. "You think I'm wrong to share this? I think the truth is complicated. Our ancestors defeated 5 coalitions. They broke civilizations. Yes, those civilizations attacked us first. Yes, we were defending ourselves, but the results were devastating. When the galaxy looks at that history, will they see justified defense or terrifying aggression?" The professor had no answer. She returned to her work, but the doubt remained. 36 hours passed like a countdown to the end of the world. Then, the Valdrian fleet arrived. 10,000 ships emerged from hyperspace at the edge of the Sol system. They formed a wall of metal and weapons that stretched across millions of kilometers. It was the largest military force assembled in modern galactic history. Aboard the lead ship, Fleet Commander Vex studied his sensors. Unlike Krenth and Draxus, he had actually read the reports from the previous battles. He knew what he was facing, and he had convinced the Empress to let him try a different approach. "Open a channel to Earth," he ordered. Admiral Taeyang received the transmission. "This is Fleet Commander Vex of the Valdrian Imperial Fleet. I am authorized to offer terms. Surrender now, and your planet will be occupied peacefully. Your people will be integrated into the Empire as subjects with limited autonomy. Refuse, and we will bombard your world until nothing remains. You have 1 hour to decide. Road. Ambassador Suho was already standing beside Taeyang. The admiral nodded to him. You have your answer ready? I do, sir. The ambassador activated the transmission. His message broadcast not just to the Valdrian fleet, but to every ship and station in the Empire simultaneously. Professor Yuna had helped him prepare it, and it began with a simple statement: Commander Vex, Empress Velara, people of the Valdrian Empire. What you are about to hear is the truth your ancestors tried to hide. Then Yuna's research began to play. Battle reports from 3,000 years ago, casualty lists, communications from desperate coalition commanders, video of ancient battles showing human ships destroying everything in their path, records of weapons that could crack planets, burn atmospheres, and ignite stars. Your third coalition brought 20,000 ships to Earth. Suho's voice continued. 3,000 returned. The others were destroyed or captured. This was not propaganda. This was not exaggeration. This was documented fact. Your ancestors surrendered, not because they wanted to, but because they had no choice. And in their wisdom, they made a treaty. Leave Earth alone, and Earth will leave you alone. The message continued for 15 minutes, laying out the complete history. When it ended, Suho's live image returned. You have 10,000 ships, he said quietly. You think this is enough? It is not. You think we are bluffing? We are not. You think we want to destroy you? We do not. But we will protect our home. We have weapons that can end your civilization. We are showing you this, not to threaten you, but to save you. Turn back now. Honor the treaty your ancestors made. Choose life over death. Choose wisdom over pride. The transmission ended. Silence fell across both fleets. Aboard Vex's flagship, officers stared at their screens in shock. The historical data was undeniable. The battles were real. The casualties were real. Everything they had been told about Earth being primitive was a lie. Commander, his tactical officer said shakily, if that data is accurate. It's accurate, Vex said. His hands trembled slightly as he opened a priority channel to Empress Velara. Your Majesty, I am recommending immediate withdrawal. The humans have just provided historical proof that I saw their propaganda. Velara's voice came back cold and hard. Lies designed to make us afraid. You will proceed with the attack. That is an order. But, Your Majesty, do I need to replace you as well, Commander Vex? Or will you do your duty? Vex closed his eyes. I will do my duty, Your Majesty. He turned to his fleet. All ships, prepare to advance. Target the Earth-Moon installations. We attack in 10 minutes. Across his bridge, officers shared worried glances. But they were soldiers. They followed orders. Admiral Taeyang watched as the Valdrian fleet began to move. They're not turning back. No, sir, Captain Minji confirmed. They're committing to the attack. Then we have no choice. Taeyang activated fleet-wide communications. All units. This is Admiral Taeyang. The Valdrians have chosen war. Taeyang activated fleet-wide. We will answer with the full force of Earth's defense. Protect our home. Protect our people. Make them understand what it means to face humanity. All ships, engage at will. What happened next would be remembered across the galaxy for thousands of years. The Earth Defense Fleet activated. But this time, they weren't alone. Hidden stations that had remained dormant suddenly came online. Weapon platforms positioned throughout the inner system revealed themselves. And surrounding the entire Sol system, a network of quantum field generators activated. Admiral Taeyang had activated the Aegis Protocol, Earth's ultimate defense system. A shimmering barrier appeared at the edge of the solar system. The Valdrian fleet crashed against it at full speed. Ships at the front of the formation collided with the invisible wall, their shields failing, hulls crumpling. The fleet behind them tried to stop, but momentum carried them forward. Hundreds of ships collided with each other in a massive chain reaction. Commander Vex watched in horror as his fleet destroyed itself. All ships, full stop, emergency reverse thrust, but it was too late. The barrier held, and on the other side, Earth's offensive force was launching. Fleet Commander Yunji gave the order. All ships, phase through the barrier. Target Valdrian command vessels. Disable, don't destroy. We want prisoners who can report what they saw. 50 Earth ships passed through the Aegis barrier, as if it didn't exist. They appeared among the disorganized Valdrian fleet and began targeting command carriers with precision strikes, not to kill, but to cripple, to disable communications and leadership. In orbit around Jupiter, Dr. Junho activated 3 Nova cannons simultaneously. But he didn't aim them at the Valdrian fleet. Instead, he targeted empty space around them. 3 beams of incredible energy lanced out. Where they struck, space itself seemed to burn. Matter converted to energy. Vacuum ignited like fuel. Artificial stars bloomed around the trapped Valdrian fleet, creating a cage of burning light. This is Admiral Taeyang of Earth, his voice broadcast to every Valdrian ship. Your fleet is surrounded. Your ships are disabled. We have weapons aimed at your position that can ignite this entire volume of space. You cannot escape. You cannot win, but you can survive. Order your crews to power down weapons and prepare to be boarded. You will be treated according to the laws of war. Your wounded will receive medical care. And when this is over, you will return to your empire with a message. Commander Vex stared at the burning stars surrounding his fleet. At the quantum barrier trapping them. At the Earth, ships moving freely while his own forces were helpless. He knew when he was beaten. All ships, power down weapons, comply with Earth's instructions. He opened a channel to Taeyang. Admiral, I am surrendering my fleet. But I have one question. Why didn't you destroy us? You clearly could have. Taeyang's response was quiet but firm. Because we remember what uncontrolled war leads to. Because mercy is stronger than vengeance. Because we want peace, not genocide. You came to our home. We defeated you. Now go back and tell your people what you learned here. In the Valdrian throne room, Empress Velara watched her entire fleet surrender. 10,000 ships, her empire's pride, captured without a fight. She had lost everything. Her credibility, her authority. Officer Korvax stood among the crowd of officials in the throne room. He watched as the Empress slowly stood from her throne. She began, her voice breaking. I have failed the Empire. I will abdicate. Effective immediately. Chaos erupted. Officials argued. Military commanders demanded action. But High Priestess Celine's voice cut through the noise. Enough. The ancient priestess hobbled forward. The Empress is right to step down. We need new leadership. Leadership that understands wisdom over pride. The humans have given us a gift. They let us live. Now, we must honor that gift by changing everything. Within days, a new Valdrian government formed. Not an empire, but a federation. Officer Korvax found himself appointed to the new Council of Defense. His first act was to send a formal request to Earth, terms for peace. Ambassador Suho worked with the new Valdrian leadership to draft a treaty. The terms were clear. The Valdrian Empire would transform into a democratic federation. All conquered worlds would be granted independence. No military vessels within 100 light-years of human space. A formal, non-aggression pact, lasting 1,000 years. The Valdrians agreed to everything. Captain Minji was promoted to admiral and given command of a monitoring fleet stationed at the edge of human space. Her mission: ensure the peace held. Lieutenant Hyun surprised everyone by accepting a diplomatic position. He became Earth's representative to the new Valdrian Federation. using his combat experience to build bridges between former enemies. Professor Yuna published her research, ensuring the true history would never be forgotten again. The galaxy learned the complete story of humanity's past, their victories, their restraint, and their choice to isolate themselves rather than dominate others. 50 years later, an elderly Hyun stood on a Valdrian colony world, watching young humans and Valdrians play together in a park. He had spent decades building this peace. One conversation at a time, a message arrived from Earth. Admiral Taeyang had passed away. The old admiral's memorial service was scheduled for the next week. Hyun read Taeyang's final message to him. We never wanted to be conquerors. We only wanted to be left in peace. You helped make that peace real. You helped turn enemies into friends. Remember that the greatest victories are the wars that end in understanding. Keep building that understanding. For all of us. Hyun smiled through his tears. He looked at the children playing, human and Valdrian together, and thought about legends. Some legends die because they are false. But some legends die because the truth is too important to remain a story. They must become reality, instead. Earth had been a legend. The forbidden world. The quarantine zone. The sleeping giant. Now it was something better. It was a partner. A protector. A teacher showing the galaxy that strength without wisdom is meaningless. But wisdom with strength can change everything. The legend was forgotten not because it was false, but because it had evolved into something greater. Hope for a better future. And in the darkness between stars, humanity kept watch. Not as conquerors, not as isolationists, but as guardians of the peace they had fought so hard to achieve. The galaxy had learned its lesson. And this time, the lesson would not be forgotten.